welcome back everyone to another fractions lesson with me, Mr. Duclos. Today, our objective is to find the product of a whole number and a mixed number using the distributive property. Let's take what we know to build upon it and do something cool. So the first thing we're going to do is work with the distributive property to get a better feel for what it looks like and how it connects to multiplication and fraction. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to use a tape diagram and multiplication, and we're going to use each one of them in two ways to show 3 units of 5/12. Now there's going to be a lot of work on the board in this part of the lesson. So if you feel like you need to pause and go back, I highly encourage you to do that. Let's begin. So, I have 3 units of 5 1/12. The first way I'm going to represent that is as a tape diagram. So if I draw it out, it's going to look like this. You're going to have 3 groups, because there's 3 units of 5 1/12. So here's 1 unit of 5 1/12. Here's another of 5 1/12. And here another of 5 1/12. So that would be one way of representing 3 units of 5 1/12. 3 units, 1, 2, 3, and each one has 5 1/12. But using the distributive property, we can actually write this tape diagram in another way. So the second way that we could do it would be like this. 5, 5, 5, and then 1/12, 1/12, 1/12. When I do it like that, I still have 3 units of 5 1/12. I need to have 5 1/12 3 times. And I have 5 1/12, 5 1/12, 5 1/12. So either way that I do it, I'm going to represent it differently by the tape diagrams, but the answer is going to be the same. Every time it's going to be 5, 10, 15, and 1/12, 2/12, 3/12. Now we're going to do the same thing using multiplication. So now we're going to represent each one of these tape diagrams as a multiplication equation. Remember, if you need to pause at any point to go back, I highly encourage that you do so. So the first thing we have is 3 groups of 5 1/12. We have 1, we have 2, we have 3. 3 groups of 5 1/12. Well, that would equal 3 times 3 groups of 5 1/12. But using the distributive property, like we did with our tape diagrams, we can represent our multiplication another way. Here we have 3 times 5, and then 3 times 1/12. So using the distributive property, we can do 3 times 5 and 3 times 1/12. And now, we already remember the answer was 5, 10, 15, and 1, 2, 3 over 12. And we can check that here. We have 15 plus 3 times 1 over 12, so 3 over 12, to give us 15 and 3 over 12. It matches up. So now we're going to take what we just learned and we're going to try it for 2 problems. Now we're going to do our 2 application problems. The instructions say, use the distributive property to solve. Our first problem is 4 times 3 and 2/5. Now, using the distributive property, I can break this up so that I have 4 times 3 plus 4 times 2/5. I use the distributive property to break up the 3 and 2/5 into 2 separate entities that I can then multiply by 4 times. Now I have more reasonable equations that I can more easily solve. 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times 2 over 5. 4 times 2 is 8. Over 5 is 8 over 5. But now I notice that my fraction, 8 over 5, is not quite right. My 8 is bigger than my 5. It's an improper fraction. And what I want to do is I want to make it a mixed number so that I can add it to the 12. So how many times can 5 go into 8? Well, we have 5, 10. So we can only do 5 once, and then there's 3 left over. So 8 over 5 is the same as 1 and 3 over 5 plus 12. 12 plus 1 is 13, plus 3 over 5 equals 13 and 3 over 5. What started as a pretty hard problem was slowly broken down into different, more manageable equations that I knew I could solve. Now let's try one more. Now we're going to move on to our 2 application problems. We're going to use the distributive property to solve. So the first problem says 4 times 3 and 2/5. Using the distributive property, I can break that up into 4 times 3 plus 4 times 2/5. Now it's a much easier problem for me to solve. So 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times 2/5 is 8/5. And then I notice that 8/5 can be simplified. So I'm going to simplify it into 1 and 3/5. Twelve plus 1 and 3/5 is 13 and 3/5. So 13 and 3/5. What I did was I took a problem that was pretty hard and I broke it down into easier steps. 4 times 3 and 2/5 becomes 4 times 3 plus 4 times 2/5. Well, that I can do. Then I noticed I could simplify. If I didn't notice that, it wouldn't necessarily be wrong. The problem didn't ask me to simplify. So I could have done 12 plus 8 over 5 is equal to 12 and 8/5. But that's not really the best answer. The best answer is when we can simplify. So I noticed that I could simplify. I did that, and then I added them together. Now let's try one more application problem. So now we're going to do the next problem. 7 times 2 over 1/2. And we're going to use the distributive property. So, breaking this up, I have 7 times 2 plus 7 times 1/2. I've used the distributive property to turn my 7 times 2 and 1/2 into 2 much simpler equations for me to solve. 7 times 2 is 14. 7 times 1 over 2 is 7 over 2. And then again I notice my numerator is more than my denominator. So while I could just answer it as 14 and 7/2, that's not really the best answer. Simplifying my 7 and over 2, I have 2, 4, 6, 8, so I can't go to 8. So 2, 4, 6, 3, and 1 left over. So 3 and 1/2, 14 plus 3 and 1/2 is equal to 17 and 1/2. That is our much better answer. Now we're going to move on and do one of your independent problems. So now we're going to do one of your independent problems. When we're done here, you're going to go finish either your Seesaw assignment or your Google Forms. Our problem is 3 times 6 over 4/5. Using the distributive property, I'm going to break that up to 3 times 6 plus 3 times 4 over 5. I've taken something that was complicated and I've made it easier using the distributive property. 3 times 6 is 18. 3 times 4 over 5 is 12 over 5. But then again I notice that my numerator is higher than my denominator. So I can simplify this down. 5 can only go into 12 twice. 5, 10, and then 10, 11, 12. 2 left over. So I have 2 and 2/5. $18 plus 2 and 2/5 is equal to 20 and 2/5. Your problem is going to ask you to simplify it. If you try and answer it like this, 18 and 12 over 5, you're not going to get credit. It's not going to count it as correct. You need to simplify to its simplest form. That's going to end our lesson for today. Go finish your independent work, and as always, have a great day.